Well, listeners, as promised, part two. And today, Dana L'Oreal Morales from the Happiness Bucket, she's going to talk to us about really how to organize our professional as well as our business digital life. Dana, thank you so much for returning because, after
Of
the last
course.
conversation, I can't even imagine what you're going to tell us because that's more. I mean, because your life, your personal life has a lot of stuff. But then when you start getting into the professional, and the business life, well, sometimes that could
Hmm.
be two, three times as much. So
Yes.
thank you for returning. But
Of
before we get to the conversation, I want you to talk about your academy,
hmm
please.
So the academy was my way of replicating myself. It is an on-demand portal of courses and information that can be provided to your listeners or any student, right, who doesn't have a lot of time, or maybe their time is at odd hours, right? So I'm a side hustler, as many people know, and so I'm dedicated to somebody else from 8 to 5. So in the evenings, most of my clients are also full-time employees. And so they needed a way to get their coaching and get their assistance at 3 o'clock in the morning or at midnight. And so I created the academy to basically break down the instructions that someone may have to need to set up processes and organize their businesses, and so giving them those tools in small bite-sized pieces with action steps. So the way the courses are built out is you have what I like to call mindset briefings, which is explaining what do you need to do and why do you need to do it. And then it goes into, okay, now that you understand, here are your action steps of what you need to do. Because I believe in empowering people to be able to handle things themselves, especially solopreneurs who may
Hmm.
not have $500, $1,000 to hire a coach or to go through this one course. I wanted to make it attainable and actionable. And so that's pretty much how Organized Academy was developed and how it was designed. So we have the Vault membership, which allows people to get in the door, $25, and they can take any courses. They get pretty much everything, and they get a little bit of me as well, and they can pay it by the month and can start and stop it at any time. So if you need something in October and then you're good with it at the end of October, you can cancel and then join again in January if you have another need. So it's just really something that you can make your own when it comes to
Mm.
organizing.
Wow, that's wonderful. So now let's talk about the digital life of the professional, but also the
Hmm.
business owner. So, what are
Yeah.
some of the things that, like you shared in the other episode of all the stuff and the clouds and the pictures and the photos? So, what about the business professional or the business owner and all this stuff? What are some of the stuff that I guess we're holding on to, but we really like need to think about deleting and letting go?
hmm So in the business space, first of all, I'm hoping that your listeners are separating their business and the personal electronic worlds, because that can add a whole nother layer of issue that you're having to deal with. But in the business world, you have your documents that you're sending to your clients. You have the templates and the files that you're using in your day-to-day business. You're dealing a lot more with email clutter than the everyday person, right? We all deal with email issues, but with business owners, and especially if you're more virtual, a
Hmm.
lot of what you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis is email based. So that's one of the areas that I find that most businesses struggle with, but it is also the replication of files across your environment, much similar to the personal environment. But you think about Canva, you're downloading your images from Canva, and how many, like, I don't know if you're anything like me, but I never really get it right the first time. So I download it, I look at it, I'm like, no, that's not quite right. So then I go fix it and I download it again. So these files, unless you have a system or a process in place to address them immediately, they're sitting on your environment. Or, let's say that I'm kind of harping in on these images because that's another area that people can relate to in the business world. You've downloaded something for social, you posted it on social. Now you are building your library. Hopefully, for some of you all, you are not building a library. So you just have these random images, in your environment. And so I have some images on social that have specific data in them that are time based, right? So after I posted them and that time has passed, those images should be deleted. But
Mm.
are they? you know? So, developing your digital library where you have your lifetime or evergreen images and having a place where your time dated or specific images are so that I can go in here and delete these quickly without having to think too hard about them would be a great like little thing that you can do in your environment. But really learning how listen, I didn't talk so much, I didn't forgot the original question, but
But this is good. But you're right, because I do it all the time. I will
yeah.
create something in Canva, download it, use it, but then it's still on
hmm
the computer. And when I got a new computer, I realized I'm like, I don't need those anymore. But I
hmm
like what
hmm
you said about some of your images are time sensitive. We just
hmm
need to get rid of them. And I'm thinking, yeah, some of them are just got dates or whatever on them. So yeah, you're giving me some tips, and I hope the listeners too. But I'm taking notes, Dana.
Yeah. Well, and this all came about at one point because when I work with clients, I make very specific contracts for each client because everybody's unique. And so what I found in my environment that I had a contract over here for this person that I had started, but it wasn't the final draft, right? It wasn't the one that was signed. So, but
Yeah.
that draft was still sitting there, and then I had the template sitting there, and then I had the signed version that was uploaded, and so I'm like, why do I need this one that was a draft that wasn't signed and I have the signed one here? So it started really creating a workflow and a process in my environment of when you create a contract, this is where it is. Once it goes to the client, right? I delete the draft because that's the final. That's the one that's gone to them. And then once they sign it, it's like, okay, that is in your file, and the rest of whatever I was doing can be deleted. But that takes you having to develop that workflow,
Mm-hmm.
right, in your environment. And
Mm.
if you don't have that, that's where we got to start.
Yeah, I mean, and, you,
hmm
and it really makes sense. And you're right. You just make these drafts, and then they come back. Well, can I change it to this? Then you make another draft, and then they finally
hmm
say you to sign one, but you still got those drafts out there. Wow,
hmm
Dana.
hmm
Okay, I see. I got to do some deleting of some stuff. But you're right. It's like a process, because now I'm in the habit of like, okay, I created this document. I've saved it because I
hmm
have it, saved. So now I can get rid of the download. Wow. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
So with all of that, how do we, and you already touched on in regards to just creating a process, but how do we really begin to be more organized when it
hmm
comes to the professional as well as the business documents and digital life?
Right. With the business world is very unique in the sense of, for some of us, we start as solopreneurs and we are building our systems and our processes based on just us handling it. But I like to get clients, even if you're a solopreneur, to think forward think and say, okay, how do I direct somebody to this information? How do I easily find this information? Because another thing that we do is when you download something, it gives it some generic name, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes we will just throw a name on because in the moment it makes sense, but we're not forward thinking and saying, okay, how am I going to find this later? Is this going to be something that I'm going to look for with, I don't know, bucket as the name? No, like, we need to
Mm-hmm.
give it a specific and clear name so that when I am looking for the Janet M. Taylor image from the podcast episode that we did in 2019, I can go and I can search for Janet M. Taylor and I can find anything related to you. And so having those naming conventions will help you, because then even if it's not organized in the folders and all of that, you can search and find everything and make clear, distinct, decisions about what should be kept and what shouldn't if you have the naming conventions down, right? So that's just a quick tip of how you can, at least if you haven't organized it, right? I'm putting that in quotes for those who are listening. You know, if you hadn't organized it yet, at least start naming them properly so that you can utilize the power of your search in all of these electronic systems. And then you can start developing your electronic files into an actual system. Now, Janet, I have to put this disclaimer out here because I know there are some people who will go folder crazy and will have 10 folders deep, right? So you click here and then you got click here. You know, I kind of set the rule of try not to go more than 3 levels deep, because after that, unless there's a rhyme or a reason as to why you need to go further, it's now just becoming crazy, right? We need to really think about what are these buckets? What are these categories? And how are we going to look for this? Why do we need it? And then sort it based on that.
Mm. And you're right. I mean, because I was like, okay, I'm the folder person. But you know, in one category, it's like 3 levels because it's the
Mm-hmm.
main, then it's the year, and then
Mm-hmm.
within that year, I've got all of my stuff. So, because but no, 10 is like you said,
Yeah.
it's a little bit too much.
But
But
see,
yeah,
I've
folders.
seen the year, then the month, and I'm like, okay, let's really think about this. And this has happened in most cases. I'm like, okay, if you've gotten it down to the year, what is really, how many files do you really have in each of the months? Do you really, and how did you break it down initially to make it so that this month, you know, this year is really broken out to where you have so many files that you need some additional folders? Can
Mm-hmm.
you not just put it in the year and then name it accordingly? So it kind of, when you sort it, it really puts it in the proper order. So those are some tricks that you can use to help you in that process to keep from adding, because you're adding clutter with the folders.
That's
Let's
true.
just be real about it. So,
That's true. Yeah, because every time you create a document, you feel like you may have to create a folder just to kind of keep up with the system you have.
mm-hmm,
Wow. Wow, Dana. So, do you have like how do you as a businesswoman, but I know you also, you do work from 8 to 5. So, how do you organize yourself in that aspect? Because you've got your work, but then also you have your clients and then you got the academy and then of
mm-hmm.
course, so how do you organize yourself in that aspect?
So there is a clear line, right? So 8 to 5, I work for another company. So those are their files. Everything that I do for them, they own. And so I do that on their network. I try not to download things into my personal environment that are theirs, right? And then I have my business and my personal, because I think that's really the differentiation for me is if it's business or if it's personal, that is all done from my personal environment, but that is segmented as well. So really just knowing when I need to draw a line and when I don't. So I talk a lot about having, and this is so funny that I'm saying separate it, but then we need to join our business and personal so we're not adding craziness to our lives, right? With my business and personal segmentation, calendars, let's talk calendars for a second. I have my personal calendar, I have my business calendar, but they need to overlap in some cases so that I know, am I booked? Am I not booked? Do I have time for this? So being able to create or add systems and tools into your environment that allow for layering so that you see the big picture and aren't replicating things unnecessarily and having to go to 5 different places is really important. So I have my work layer, my full-time layer, then I
Mm-hmm.
have my THB layer, and then I have my personal layer. And so in my calendar, I can see all genres of myself, all pieces of myself in one place and can say, okay, yes, I can do this, or no, I can't do this, or can I move these things around and make this happen? And I think that you just got to look at your unique situation and figure out where are your pain points, where do you need some relief, and then looking at the systems and processes you have in place in those areas to know what's right for you and how you need to adapt it.
Mm. Wow, Dana. I mean, my paper is like covered with all kinds of different notes and things that you have shared. I thank you so much. So, how can people connect with you?
So I'm Dana LaRieal Morales on all social networks. I shouldn't say all. On LinkedIn, YouTube, well, yeah, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm mainly on Instagram, but all the others, I am active on. So that's the main place. dlmorales.com is my website. And the organizedacademy.com is the actual academy. And I mentioned this, I think, in the personal episode, but the How to Tackle Electronic Clutter course is an a la carte course. So you don't have to become a Vault member, although I would encourage you to do that. You don't have to become a Vault member to get that course. So you can pay for that separately. And I have a code, eClutter, that you can utilize to get a discount on that course. Or if you join the Vault membership, you do get that as part of your Vault membership. So you can do that as well.
And of course, I will have all the links so you can connect with
Mm-hmm.
Dana as well as take advantage of the discount in the description below. Well, Dana, thank you so much
You are
again for your time.
welcome. You are very welcome. I enjoyed it. And I'll be here anytime.
Thank you.